Thailand, the biggest car manufacturing hub in Southeast Asia. The country even labeled itself the Detroit of Asia. But is that still true? A country that has seen an automotive boom like no other, but also a downturn like no other. And other countries are looking to snatch away Thailand's self-proclaimed title. And with EVs on the rise, they have a real chance to do just that. Or can Thailand fight back to secure the title as Southeast Asia's top car-making hub? In the past 6 decades, Thailand has gone from complete knockdown, where cars are assembled from imported kits, to end-to-end manufacturing at some 18 plants across the country. That's down to a range of factors, including cheap labor, high import tariffs, tax exemptions for corporations, and free trade agreements.
Back in 1960, actually, the Thai government pushed more into a true industrial development of the country, very much to develop the overall industrial development. They raised the tariffs. Finally, they even banned import of cars but to really push forward this production area. And this is then where it really came into. And if you consider back in the 1980s, 90s, there were the Asian tiger states, and that Thailand was actually one of them because of this quite developing role in automotive production and others, including parts.
It all started out in the 60s with Ford and Nissan. In 1961, Ford opened a local assembly line that built the Cortina. But the market was tiny, with a mere 525 vehicles produced that year. In 1962, Nissan established Thailand's first Japanese auto assembly plant in Bangkok. It employed 120 people and produced only 4 cars per day.
I think one of the better starts was the conception of ASEAN. So that whole free trade zone of ASEAN, and again, that was even before China really came into focus. So here then the government provided preferential policies and let's say more or less stable government and economy that was really directed to grow, so that they really invested and attracted automotive production.
Tax breaks and other policies encouraged more international brands to enter the market. Fast forward to 2023 and you're looking at 1.83 million vehicles produced in Thailand. The leading manufacturers, Toyota, Isuzu, Honda, Mitsubishi, Nissan, and Ford, are mostly located in eastern Bangkok and Rayong province.
I think the Japanese automakers came in very, very early. Thailand is, out of the ASEAN countries, a little bit more economically developed. And so whenever you head over to Thailand, actually whenever you head over to Southeast Asia, you're likely to see a Japanese brand. So companies like Toyota, Ford, they're building in Thailand. And so that created the foundation and the infrastructure for Thailand's quote-unquote being the Detroit of Southeast Asia.
And more brands started to follow. In 2002, the Thailand Automotive Institute even announced a plan to become the Detroit of Southeast Asia, a gigantic claim as Detroit is home to some of the most influential automakers in history, the Big Three: Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler. In 1913, Henry Ford revolutionized car production with the introduction of assembly lines. This drastically reduced manufacturing costs and made cars more affordable and accessible. It marked the birth of mass production for cars. Thailand, aiming to be the region's Detroit, might be too ambitious, as other countries in Southeast Asia also want a piece of the car-making pie. But more on that later.
If you're looking to have a lower manufacturing cost base and still be able to produce a lower cost vehicle and then be able to export that to a market like Europe or the US without having to pay the Chinese, tax that has been created, that coming from a place like Thailand makes a lot of sense.
You might remember these headlines: the trade war or import tariffs. The tax that companies have to pay when they want to import goods and products into a country where they weren't produced. It's an easy way to give the local economy and manufacturers an edge over international competitors. But of course, other countries can retaliate with their own tariffs. It's escalated so drastically between the US and China that it even gets called a trade war. In 2024, for example, the tariff rate for Chinese electric vehicles in the US jumped from 25 to 100%. So it makes economic sense to move some production capacities outside of China or the US to avoid these taxes. Even though when we inquired with car makers like BMW and Ford, they would neither confirm nor deny that it's a strategic goal for them.
Many automakers are looking to set up an operation where there's still a low cost base, so meaning lower labor costs primarily. And so, wanting to have your low cost operation inside of China and then try to replicate that in another low cost manufacturing base in a country like Thailand.
And Chinese manufacturers are coming in hot. There are already 9 of them, and BYD finished construction of a state-of-the-art factory in 2024 at a cost of around $500 million. Able to churn out 150,000 vehicles a year, it's the company's first wholly owned plant outside China.
If you look at some of the Chinese EVs, the early entries, the Nettas, the BYDs, they're offering a lot of value, okay? And they are seeing the impact that BYD is making, because if you go to Thailand, you'll see advertisements for BYD pretty significantly, pretty predominantly. And so they're going in there, creating that awareness, because BYD is pretty much the only company that is a ton of positive momentum, regardless of where they are in the world.
It's also reshaping Thailand's car manufacturing, with the biggest players, Japanese brands like Toyota and Honda, being rather slow when it comes to the EV transition. They're now having to compete with the Chinese idea of everything is electric.
Chinese car manufacturers are looking at the transition to EVs globally as an opportunity for them to compete at the global level. Historically, from internal combustion engines, Chinese auto manufacturers had difficulty proving that, making the case for consumers outside of China to buy their brands, oftentimes due to quality issues or at least a perception that it was a lower quality vehicle compared to European and US automakers. But with the transition to electric vehicles, everyone is on a more level playing field since it's a new technology, and China certainly had the first mover advantage in EVs.
With the Chinese brands comes new technology, but major players like BYD and battery manufacturer CATL also rely on their own supply chains. This could put Thailand's local suppliers under pressure, or maybe even out of business. Another point that could put Thailand on the map for EV production is the recent discovery of lithium in the country's south. According to government sources, at least around 15 million tons have been discovered. But what has worked for Thailand is also something other countries are capable of. Malaysia and especially Indonesia have been catching up with Thailand as the world is turning more and more towards EVs. According to the Federation of Thai Industries, Thailand's car production has been declining since its peak in 2013 at 2.46 million vehicles, down to 1.88 million in 2022, a loss of around 23%. During the same period, Indonesia increased its production by 30%, reaching 1.47 million units in 2022.
One of the most important factors is how large the domestic market is, because it's easier to sell into the domestic market than it is to sell some into the domestic market and then ship out to other countries. And that's where Indonesia has an advantage. And so, unfortunately, Indonesia doesn't really have a history of automotive manufacturing.
But Indonesia does have something else. It's home to the biggest nickel reserves in the world, holding about 22% of global reserves, a metal that's crucial for the production of batteries for EVs. Indonesia has also been steadily promoting EVs with a reduction in value-added tax to just 1%. South Korea's Hyundai and China's SAIC GM Wuling started producing EVs in Indonesia in 2022, and even Tesla is thinking about building a facility there. Ernst & Young even projects that Indonesia will overtake Thailand as Southeast Asia's biggest market for EVs during the next decade.
Indonesia doesn't want companies to come in, take their nickel, and leave. They want to bring value-added services, and the Indonesian government is really using that as a tool to attract OEMs to come build refined nickel in their countries, to hire more Indonesians to build cars for them.
One thing seems certain: Chinese car makers will move outside of China in the near future because of US and EU tariffs. To avoid them, 40% of a car's parts need to be made outside of China. Thailand has a well-developed manufacturing infrastructure that's been growing for decades. And Indonesia could prove to be a good export market and has the potential for a lucrative domestic market with its 275 million people. A decisive role could be played by whichever country inks a free trade agreement with the EU first. The title of Southeast Asia Car Manufacturing Hub is up for grabs in the coming years.